This is a very profound, complex, highly philosophical, highly theological encyclical that has 182 pages of 8.5 by 11, single space. I mean, it's a lot of reading, profound reading. You read it once, not enough. You read it twice, not enough. You read it 100 times, not enough. It's very profound. It has 184 references and notes. So the Pope did a lot of work in this encyclical. But when I was reading the encyclical, the first question that came to my mind was very simple. Why in the world he wrote this encyclical? What for? What is the purpose? And then I discovered the purpose. I discovered why he wrote the encyclical. There were some questions floating at that time, and still do, and before did. Questions like, what must I do? And this question, the Pope relayed that question to the definition of freedom. And the definition of freedom is, according to the Pope, and I accept that, I think it's the best one, freedom is not what I want to do or what I think is convenient to do or what I want to say or what is convenient to say. What is it then? What must I do? What is freedom? Basically, is to do the right things the right way. This I will explain later for that, why I said the right things the right way. And to speak the truth. Period. That's what it is. Now you can use that relativism theory and the individualistic theory and said, freedom is what I do, whatever I want to do. Well, what about if what you want to do interfere with what I want to do? Then is kind of shaky grounds there. Then the Pope was thinking in another question. Remember, he was a priest, bishop, cardinal, pope. How many people did he hear with this question? From a confessor to a spiritual director, how many times? I cannot count it, but I can imagine. And what he said is that we need to distinguish good from evil. We need to distinguish what is right from what is wrong. We have heard a word many, many times. So many times that I so used to that we don't know what is it anymore. Discernment. What is it? What is discernment? Well, those who explain the encyclical, like this priest, if you want to buy this little book, 82 or 83 pages, it explains the encyclical in his own terms. And I read this book to make sure that my thoughts were in line with some other interpretations of the book, because I never consider myself that I have the truth. I need to compare to see what other people say. This is a priest called William Maestri, and this is the little book that he wrote explaining the encyclical. You can buy this if you want at Amazon.com. By the way, I have no stocks on Amazon.com. But you can buy it, you can check later the title or whatever you do But in that book, he also explained how discernment is a power that God gave us to establish or to distinguish what is right, what is wrong. But not only that, what about between two things that are good? Then what you do? How you discern? This is good, this is good. What I discern? I cannot take only one. So I discern the best that I can. Right? That's all I can do. I might make a mistake. Nobody's perfect. But that's the only thing we can do. When I was a teenager at my parish, the priest was basically our spiritual director, and he didn't like for us to confession like we go into a restaurant and in a rush and try to get out or try to take a quick shower. He wants for us to take time. And to take time, he wants for us to examine our conscience. But when he said examine our conscience, he doesn't were referring to my conscience that I can manipulate. You know what I am saying? I can justify anything if I manipulate my conscience. He said your conscience has to go, and here is where the Pope comes. Your conscience has to match the natural moral law that the Lord put in your heart. So you have to get your conscience from here and drop it to here to see if the conscience that you think is telling you that what is wrong is right if you do it properly, match that natural conscience law that tells you no, it's not. So that's what he called exam of conscience. It's not a test, it's not a quiz, it's an exam of the conscience to make sure that what we get to is what we call, and the Pope called, a straight conscience. Not any way to handle the conscience, but very straight conscience. Another thing that the Pope was considering was, and maybe the question that he received from many people, what is the purpose of life? But, life is a very general term. Now, there are two books. One I don't have it, the other one I do. Have you seen this book? Somebody has seen it. This is called Man's Search for Meaning. In his comments about the Encyclical Veritatis Splendor, the Father Mitch Pacwa, do you know him? Yes. Have you invited him for lunch? Well, then you can invite me instead of him. Viktor Frankl is not Catholic, is not a Christian. He's a Jew. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist that was captured by the Nazis and took to a concentration camp. Viktor Frankl, by the way, do you see this book is new? Do you? Appears that I have not read it, right? No, you're wrong. You know why it's new? Because I had a book that I read it in my office at home, but friends come, look at the book. This looks interesting. Can I have it? You remember what my mother said? Yes, you can have it. And then another friend later on, and then I ordered another one. Okay, I put it in my, another friend came in and said, me, Viktor Frankl, who's that? He's has been a pope or something? No, he's a Jew. He's a psychiatrist Jew. And and took it. You know, the risk when you borrow a book is what? You never get it back.
Yeah.
So I have an old professor, very old professor, who said, Isaac, please don't borrow 3 things because he'll never come back to you. Never borrow books. They never come back to you. Never borrow money. They never come back to you. And never loan your wife because it will never come back to you. So, I highly recommend this book because he said that the people that were in the concentration camp, and he was clear, he said, not all Nazis were bad people. There were some very good that tried to sneak food for you to eat and not to abuse you. And not all Jews in the concentration camp were that good either because some of them stole food. You know, you feel hungry and you steal food and maybe you are okay, but stealing, doesn't matter what. Okay? And then what he found, remember, he was a psychiatrist, that in the concentration camp, most of the people who survive only because they put a purpose above and beyond the concentration camp. Those who day to day have their mind fixed on the day in the concentration camp didn't survive. But those who were able to determine the purpose that they will have for their life after the concentration camp, like he did, survive. And what was his purpose? His purpose was to, when he came back to his office of psychiatrist, he will treat his patient with a new dimension. First, he wants for his patients to put a purpose in their life instead of thinking in their illness, to put a purpose on their life. Tremendous success. He opened offices in other countries. So that was Viktor Frankl. But this book is very good. I mean, when Miss Pakwa recommend the book of a Jewish person, is a good book. I have used it in the seminars that I have done for the management of the city of Norfolk. Okay, just another thing. All right. Another question, or another situation that the Pope faced was a growing belief that there is any unchangeable, universal principle of truth or moral. Do you believe that? So, what that means then? That I have my own principle of truth and moral? It doesn't work. What does it mean that I determine what truth is and what moral is? It doesn't work. There have to be some principles, and those principles basically come from God. Through the scriptures, through the teachings of the church, through the knowledge of Christ, to the presence of Christ among us. And there is a lot of also discussions that the Pope found about human dignity. And he didn't find one definition of human dignity to be the right one. So, what the Pope said about human dignity, where he came from? Do you have any idea? Okay. Now I am going to travel a little bit on the scriptures from the very beginning, from Genesis. Who was God's last creation? The final creation of God. Man and woman. And I believe that I read somewhere in Genesis that God created them to his image and resemblance. That's where human dignity comes from. And that's why we need to act in our life. The life outside and the life inside, according with the Pope, in accordance with that dignity. Because that dignity is an image and resemblance of God. So when we walk on the street, I don't know how you look like. I don't know how I look like. I know I have a big nose. It doesn't matter. I don't know if God might have a big nose too. Well, doesn't matter how we look. Doesn't matter if we are fat or skinny, if we are tall or short, if we are black, white, Latino, Indian. It doesn't matter. We are made to the image and resemblance of God, and that's where human dignity comes from. Otherwise, who comes from? From the devil? There cannot be. The devil has no any dignity. According to the Pope, this dignity concept is very important for us to drive our life, to live our life. Always remember that we must live our life as we are, built, made at the image and resemblance of God, who is perfect. All right. Good. The other question was, what in the world is moral life? What is moral life? And moral life is something active. Life has to be active. If life is not active, it's because we're dead. So life must be active. So moral life, according to the Pope, is our response to the presence of God in us, telling us to do good and to avoid evil. Basically, those two things. Good is good, so do it. Evil is evil, don't do it. But it's interesting. It says then, and we show our love to God, and Christ said that too, if we do what? If we follow his commandments. But remember, and we check that in a few minutes, that Christ raised the bar. Christ always raised the bar. Sometimes, not only sometimes it's not that he raised the bar, sometimes he lowered the bar. How you, what is that Filipino dance where you keep whatever it is, you keep, the people is dancing, almost crawling.
Bamboo dance.
Well, so either Christ raised the bar or he lowered the bar to see what you can do. So it's not only following the commandments, that's like checking. Like people, I went to Mass, ching, I went to Mass. I went to confession, ching. I pressed the rosary, ching. All that is good. If it causes a change on our heart. And you will see in a minute, I am going to that we are going to discuss this parable. This parable, no, it's not the parable, the encounter of Christ with the rich man. Let's see it. You have a copy? Okay, here it is. It's two parables that the Pope used in his encyclical. One is this, and let's talk about this one now, because it relates to what we are discussing so far. And remember, I am not inventing here anything. All this comes from the encyclical of the Pope with some language to make a better understanding, okay? The rich man and the kingdom of God. Notice that the rich man start calling Jesus what? Good teacher. Good teacher. The translation of the word good teacher from the Aramaic of good might mean not only good, it might be perfect, or it might be, listen to this carefully because this is important, it might mean whole. Whole. But we'll find the meaning of whole a few minutes later. And then Jesus said, why you call me whole? Father is whole, is whole, is good. Not me, Father is good. Then the man wants to check how he's doing I would say, to be in sync with God's will. And Christ asked about the commandments. And he said, oh yeah, I do that. I got it. Bingo. I got it. So Jesus went to another dimension. What commandments? And notice the commandments that Jesus lists. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony. All those are don't do, right? All these. But he also put two more that are don't do's. They are do commandments. What are them? Honor your father and your mother, and love your neighbor. Why he does that? Because he's dealing with moral principles here. The relationship between people, how I relate to other people. All these are things that we must be doing in accordance with the moral law that God put on us. I hope it's clear for you now, basically, that truth and moral. Do you have a coin? Somebody has a coin? Nobody has a coin. Okay.
Coin shortage.
Coin shortage. Okay, so imagine of a coin. How many sides a coin has? Two. They are not the same, right? It's one thing in one side and the other thing in the other side. Can you take a hacksaw and divide in two? No. But if you could, what could happen? That you don't have a coin anymore.
You don't have a hole.
Well, moral truth and the truth are two sides of the same coin. You cannot separate them. What is truth is moral. Got it? And what is moral is true. What is immoral becomes what? False. Right? So it's very simple. So this is good, but Christ raised the bar. Why? Because he saw something that was weak inside this rich man. So yes, he followed the commandment, all of them. Maybe he went to the synagogue. Maybe he made a big donation to the synagogue. But Christ saw something else. Christ raised the bar. Christ raised the bar. And what Christ told him?
Sell your possessions and follow.
Sell your possessions and give it to the poor. That's a very high rise of the bar. Do you remember, do you like Donald Duck? Do you remember his uncle?
Yes.
That was rich. You remember he has a room full of coins, gold coins. And he used to take a bath in those coins. Not in water, but a bath in the coins. Well, Christ doesn't mind money. Christ doesn't mind money. What he minds is how to use it. How attached you are. And this young man that was very rich was very attached to the money. So when Christ raised the bar, what happened? He left.
Broken heart.
And really he left, and Christ celebrated, isn't? No. Christ was sad. Why? Because he raised the bar. Because remember, after he said, sell your possessions, give it to the poor, and then what? Christ really wanted for that young man to be his disciple. It didn't work. This is one where we can see the attachment to fortune, where Christ raised the bar. Remember that. Christ is continuously raised the bar. So you are good, Christ wants for you to do what? To be better. And you are better, he wants for you to do even better until you are best. Maybe when you are best is because we are at the time of death, but that's the purpose of life. That should be our purpose. Then the Pope has another encyclical. Well, let me finish the concept with it, because I don't want to miss this. Remember all this conversation between Christ and the young man. Now remember Zacchaeus. You know Zacchaeus?
Yes.
Short man, little bit chubby, very rich, crook. He's at his house. And he heard that Jesus is coming, and she said, I have to see him. Plain curiosity at that time. So Zacchaeus goes out. He's rich as the old man. Then Zacchaeus faces a mob that he doesn't like him. They harass him. He's short. And guess what? They stand in front of him so he cannot go in front. So he cannot see Jesus. But he wanted to see Jesus. He wanted to see Jesus. What to do? A sycamore tree. I am going to climb the sycamore tree. They made fun of him. They harassed him. But he went in the sycamore tree because at that time, it's not curiosity anymore that he wanted to see Jesus. He had an urgency to see Jesus. He had to see Jesus not for curiosity, because something inside him is pushing him to see Jesus. And he climbed to the uncomfortable branch of a sycamore tree. And Jesus see him. And Jesus told his disciples, what in the world this guy is doing? And Jesus approached him and tell him, Zacchaeus, get out of that branch and prepare for me a nice dinner. Oh, Jesus loved nice dinners, believe me. Prepare for me a nice, I will eat at your house tonight. Zacchaeus, short, a little bit short, ran like crazy. He didn't walk, he ran to the house to prepare. When Jesus came in, Zacchaeus stood up. And Zacchaeus, Jesus didn't ask him for anything. Remember, he asked the rich man to sell his possessions and give the money to the poor. But he didn't ask Zacchaeus a single word. Nothing. Why? Why Jesus told the man and why Jesus didn't tell Zacchaeus? Basically because Jesus knew that the rich man has not changed his heart. But he knew that Zacchaeus has changed his heart. It's not only that Zacchaeus wants to see him or prepare a dinner for him. He has changed his heart. And Zacchaeus said, I am going to give everybody 4 times what I took from them. And I give half of what I have to the poor. And Jesus said, today salvation has entered this house because this man is also a son of Abraham. For a Jewish people, and remember, Jesus was not a Christian, believe me. He was not a Christian. We are Christians because we follow him, but he was a Jew. Not only a Jew, he was a rabbi. And he said, this man is a son of Abraham also. And to tell that to a Jew is a big thing, the son of Abraham. Now, you see the difference between these two guys? You see that it's not only to do certain things. Yeah, coming to Mass is fantastic. I think we should do that because it's good. It's kindle us for the journey. But it's not enough in the eye of Jesus. Confession is good, but it's not enough in the eye of Jesus. Rosary is good, it's not enough in the eyes of Jesus. Jesus is always raising the bar. And the bar is, did all this change our hearts? How we know that our heart has to change? Well, let's get a purpose to our life that is related to the things that we want to do. That's the focus of the Pope, okay? All right. The other one that the Pope is using, not as much as the rich man, is the interesting story about the Pharisee and the tax collector praying at the temple. One was in front. Why he was in front? Pharisees always like to be in front of everything. They like good seats. They see, maybe God will see them better if they are in the front seat. I like to sit in the back seat so that God doesn't see my sins. Kind of hide them a little bit. What is what the Pharisee says? What he says? I thank you because I am so good. I thank you because I am not like that guy back there. I thank you because I do my donations. I thank you because this and that. The tax collector was there. Lord, I am not worthy. Lord, I am not worthy to be here. He couldn't even raise his head. And the gospel said, who was justified? Who was justified? The tax collector or the Pharisee?
The tax collector.
The tax collector. The sinner was justified. The tax collector, the false saint or the fake holy person was not justified. Why? Who was getting in his conscience being manipulated? The Pharisee, who was using his conscience by digging into the moral, natural law. The tax collector, he was reaching God. The Pharisee was reaching himself. All right. Done with this. The Pope found some common errors that he analyzed, and I am going to go very quickly over it because I need to finish in about 15 minutes. But I tell you what I am going to do, and I explain to Margie what I am going to do. If you have questions or comments that you want to share with me after the presentation, I will stay here as long as necessary. Okay? There are one common error. Well, it's three of them, but let's take the first one. What is that common error? Human reason and freedom are supreme and cannot be restricted by any principle or authority. How that sounds to you? Sounds like a very atheist statement, right? The second statement, humans are part of nature, like trees and beasts and all that. Yeah, we are part of nature, but a different part of nature. But this second common error say we are just biological entities with no spirit. How you like that? If I am certain that I don't have any spirit and there is nothing after life for me, in the world that the world is going, I probably commit suicide. Because anyway, I am not going anywhere. Why suffer all these things in the world? So that's a very dangerous statement. So, because of that, behaviors are okay. You can behave any way you want. You can do wrong things. You can do right things. Why? Because your behavior is determined by social and cultural values. Something like, think about this. Have you heard the term peer pressure? It's interesting, and let me tell you this. When I was doing my bachelor at the Institute of the Winners, I was probably the most influential student in the institute. And somebody asked me one time, how you face peer pressure? I said, I don't have to face peer pressure. I am the peer pressure. But I was good peer pressure. I try to be good peer pressure. So for that reason, I have many of my students who I lost for 50 years. You know, when the problem that we had in Cuba came in, we disappeared. Everybody run in different ways. But the purpose that I took when I came to the United States was to locate every one of my friends at that time. And I did. I recovered all my friends. And they are so good, I tell you. So, let me, do you have a pencil, a pen? Please draw a triangle, a large triangle. If you don't have anything to write, I have some cards here. And I have more pencils if you like. Please write a right triangle.
There are little notebooks on this portion and pens.
All right? All right. If more is needed, I have more here. Yeah. Just write 4. Just write 4 triangles. No, 1 triangle, sorry.
Okay.
Write a large triangle.
A large, okay.
1 large triangle.
Oh, okay, but I need to keep reading.
Let's see how we contrast these false errors with the reality. You have a triangle, right? Triangle has 3 angles. Is the reason why it's called triangle. So I want for first to follow what they are saying. I want for you in one of the angles to write the word body. Body.
Body.
I want for you to write in other angle the word mind.
Man.
Mind, M-I-N-D.
Oh, mind.
So you have the body,
Yeah.
mind. As a Christians, what would we put in the empty angle? Soul, spirit, whatever. Yeah, soul. Soul or spirit, whatever you want to write. And you can make a note inside the triangle that's the human person.
Human person.
Oh, person.
Okay.
Person. Okay, what I am saying is that if you take any one of these angles, you don't have a person. If you eliminate the body, you don't have a person. If you eliminate the mind, you don't have a person. You have a body, but it's not a person because, the mind, the brain is the control of the body. But if you don't have the soul, the person is broken. It doesn't exist as a person. Why? The person is a whole seamless between body, mind, and soul. It has to be a connection that cannot be separated for us to have a person, body, mind, and soul. Now let me play another game. What is the name of a whole number? Integer?
What, integer?
Integer? Yeah. I want for you to write that word, integer. A whole number. How you spell it out? I spell it for you. It's I-N-T-E-G. Stop there. I-N-T-G. You know why I want for you to stop there? Because that's the root of the word. So make 2 lines like this. And in one line, at the end of one line, write the letters E-R. That's a whole number. Then you have a whole number with that, right? Integer. And in the other line, at the end of the other line, write the letters R-I-G-H. Now, what's what you see there? What is the word that we got there? Integrity. So, what integrity means? That means wholeness. You are whole, like an integer number. Integrity means that we are whole. That means, go back to the triangle, that I am a person of integrity because my mind, my body, and my soul are in an inseparable connection. If one of those is moved out, I am not a person of integrity anymore. All right. How are we doing? This is interesting, or you want to go home? All right, let's try one more time. Another concept that the Pope touched is, see, the hard work for me here is to take this humongous encyclical and try to get out the concepts that are good for you and for me. And if you want more, then don't forget this little book of this priest. What is moral conscience? According to the Pope, is the presence of God in us, asking us, I think I said before, to reject evil and embrace what is good. One of the things that Father Mitch Pacwa touched, and the Pope did, in the Encyclical, is a few concepts that I can summarize them in one. The few concepts that I can summarize in one is, have you read the book The Prince by Nicholas Machiavelli? You did? Okay. Is a principle that is being used much, especially in politics, that is called the end justify the means. That means you want to be elected, you use whatever is necessary to get elected. My purpose, the end, is to be elected. So I use whatever. If I have to lie, I lie. If I have to misinterpret things, I do it. I do whatever. My question is that moral? Now let me give you now a biblical example of the end justify the means. When I was in Israel, I visited the tomb. I entered inside the tomb of King David. It's very interesting place. You cannot even breathe there. You have to have absolute silence. There is the tomb, and here is a lady facing the wall. That lady is supposed to be praying all the time. And there was a gentleman on the other side making sure that everybody keeps silent. So who selected David to be the king of Israel? God. So he was chosen by God. Was he a great king? Yes, he was a great king. But he blew it. And I tell you how he blew it. He went to the roof of palace to take sun and walk, and this beautiful lady was taking a bath. And he went, wow, I have to get that woman. So he started having problem with the commandments, right? Because he started having lust in his soul. And he went to a violation of another commandment. Somebody told her, she's married. Oh, yes. Okay. Are we in battle? Yes, we are in battle. Send her husband to the front line. So he didn't kill him, but he sent him to a place where he was absolutely sure the man was killed. So he was in violation of two commandments here. No lust, don't kill. He did both. But his conscience was manipulated. I was okay. He had what he wanted, and he was for, this is good. But God doesn't like it. And God sent Prophet Nathan. And Prophet Nathan told him what he did wrong. And then he understood. Prophet Nathan helped him to get out of his conscience manipulated and went down to the natural law that God put in his heart. And then he realized what he had done. But he did it. So, the end does not justify the means. When I use this concept for management, because see, in the industry is always, or you can find cases where, and I experienced that, but I don't want to talk about that. People that want to enter into a top management position try to do whatever take him to that management position. Whatever. For example, I know in Cuba, let me give you this example. I was the second in the office. It was a large office in Cuba. All the offices belong to the government anyway. I was the second person in the office. And I was told the first person died. That was a very sad thing. It was a young man that died of some kind of virus that destroyed his brain very quickly. And the head of the office called me and said, Isaac, I want to tell you that you are the second in the office and you deserve the position of the head of the office. However, listen to this. However, you are not a member of the Communist Party. And you are Catholic. So if you want that position, I give it to you. If you become a member of the party and you stop going to the church. I told him, I don't need that position. I know other people who did that, who stopped going to the church and became member of the party just to get the position. I was not. I was not because, as Father read it, my faith is not negotiable. I can negotiate anything. I can. Not my faith. That's not negotiable. So, for you to understand well how people manipulate things, just to go to the Machiavelli principle, the end justify the means. How we know if an act is good or evil? Many things. We have many resources. We have our conscience related to the natural law. We have the Bible. The Bible tells us we have the person of Christ, And we have the teaching of the church, which is the magisterium. Whoever Catholic denies the magisterium of the church is not a Catholic. I am very strong on that. Whoever Catholic directly or indirectly approve things like abortion that are directly against the magisterium of the church is not a Catholic. Something is lacking. Part of something that is very important is lacking. I have to follow the magisterium of the church. I can discuss it. I can clarify it. I can ask questions. But I cannot go against the magisterium of the church. I can't. Finally, the Pope gives a definition of what are intrinsically evil acts. Pope Pius XI, in one encyclical, wrote that the communism is intrinsically perverse. Intrinsically perverse, Pope John Paul II used that to say that any act that goes against the will of God is intrinsically perverse. I am 5 minutes past my time. So at this time, I would like to say, just to close this talk, asking you to put a purpose in your life. It doesn't matter how young or how old you are. Put a purpose in your life. Because not only a purpose, let me clarify exactly what I mean using the concept of John Paul II. A high moral purpose, not any purpose, but a high moral purpose in your life. Because a life without a purpose is like a ship with no map, with no compass, and no port of call. Think about that. A ship without a map, a ship without a compass, and a ship without a port of call is like a life having no purpose. You don't know where you're going. Yeah, you said, I am going to heaven, that's my purpose. Okay, but can you put some purposes to fulfill that purpose? Because remember, the end doesn't justify the means, and Christ is always raising the heart. Christ is always raising the bar. And we have to be ready for that. We cannot be complacent with what we do. We can't. We have to see what is the next level of the bar that is Christ calling us to. Christ is always in action, and so should we do. Thank you, and I hope I can transfer some of the main concept of the Encyclical, this powerful Encyclical, to you. And if you have a chance, please learn more about the Encyclical. I highly recommend this book. For example, let me tell you something here. How we start, for example, like this. Item number 19. The Second Vatican Council issued a special invitation to theologians and bishops to renew the riches of the Church living moral tradition. How do theologians and bishops exercise their ministry on behalf of the renewal of moral theology? And then the priest write here his interpretation of the words of the Pope. Also, here, Article 4, starting in page, Article 4 is called the morality of human acts, and start in this book in page 485. So 3 books. Okay. You want to raffle the book now? Or? Okay. Oh, you need one more?
Just for those, well, Sharon.
Oh, don't worry about that. Oh, by the way, if you have these 2 books, you know, you don't need more. Let somebody else have it.
One more. This will be Steve's.
You know, I am a little bit biased because I know Jackie for a very long time. She was my student, as she said, at Thomas Nelson. And a little bit more than that I don't want to comment at all that, right? So, Jackie, what is your number? All right. 694-489.
Maybe it's in the stable. Not deep.
If you want for me to sign it for you, you come later, okay?
Okay,
Okay.
I will do that, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy it. All right, so I will stay as long as necessary to, you know, for answer any questions or hear any comments you might have or anything. I will stay here. I will take water.
If I could interrupt though before you ask questions, there are little flyers on your table about the Advent retreat, the recollection that we're having in December. And just a heads up about the trip over to the Basilica. It's still on, but we're having bus difficulties, you know, finding a bus and all that. So we're going to meet here. Some of you guys got the email on it, but some didn't. So we're going to meet here on that morning at around 8:30, and then it's carpool over. But I still need to know if you're going so that we can tell the church how many, because they're preparing a lunch for us. So the actual tour is at 10. We're going to do the rosary and we'll do some prayers there, not a full mass, but obviously lead us in some prayers. And then we'll have lunch. So, and then you can do whatever you want to do after that. So. Oh, okay. So, if anybody has any questions? And thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's always my pleasure.